Christopher had never hated the smell of garlic before. But tonight, after a 10-hour shift at Bella Vita, his favorite kitchen scent clung to his sweat-soaked shirt like a cruel reminder. He wasn't in the ring, he was elbow-deep in dishes. He wiped his forehead with his apron, only to smear flour across his face. "Chris!" barked Dominic, the restaurant owner. Table 6 spilled wine again. You want it to turn into a murder scene. Christopher forced a smile and rushed over with a rag and empty tray. It was a Tuesday. The gym was waiting. His hands itched to be wrapped. His knuckles ached for the bag. But tonight, he was stuck.
Later that night, around 2 a.m., his phone buzzed. It was Coach Sal. "You up?" Now," Chris whispered, stepping over his roommate's snoring body. "You remember Leo Reyes?" Chris blinked. Of course he did. Leo Razor Reyes, undefeated amateur star, turned pro. Fast, flashy, and loud. He's looking for a tune-up fight. His team asked for you. Chris froze. You serious? They want someone tough but beatable. Chris felt his chest tighten. So I'm the underdog. You've always been.
For the next 3 weeks, life became a blur. Morning runs at 5 a.m. Lunch shifts at Bella Vita. Sprints between tables. Shadows thrown in the walk-in freezer during breaks. And at night, war. Coach Sal didn't go easy. You think Leo's gonna pause 'cause you're tired? He'll eat you alive if you don't wake up. Chris bled. Chris gasped. Chris kept showing up. But the pressure, it crushed him sometimes.
Where's your head at today? Snapped Dominic as Chris dropped a plate of risotto. Sorry, long night. Long night or wrong priorities? Chris didn't answer. You know, Dominic said, lowering his voice. You're good, kid. But not everyone's built for 2 lives. Chris met his eyes. I'm not trying to live 2 lives. I'm trying to make one count.
One Sunday, Chris took the train back to his mother's house. It smelled like cinnamon and childhood. She made him sit. Eat. Breathe. You look tired, mijo. I am. She took his hands, rough, calloused, wrapped in tape. You used to draw. Remember? Chris laughed. Barely. You'd sketch superheroes on the back of menus, always with gloves. He stared at her. Guess I became one. Or maybe you've always been one. Just the real kind.
The locker room stank of sweat and menthol. Chris sat on the bench, gloves off, staring at his reflection. Leo's face flashed across his mind. Fast hands, clean footwork, cocky smirk. Coach Sal came in, tossed him a bottle. You nervous? Terrified. Good. That means you care. Chris shook his head. What if I'm not good enough? Sal knelt beside him. You were good enough when you scrubbed pots and still showed up to spar. You were good enough when you lost and came back the next day. You're not fighting Leo, Chris. You're fighting the version of you that wanted to quit 100 times.
Round 1 Chaos. Leo came out dancing, jabbing, showboating. Chris got clipped twice. Blood from his lip. Roar from the crowd. Round 2 Adjustment. Chris settled. Guard up. Footwork tighter. He found Leo's rhythm. He landed 2 good body shots. Leo flinched. Round 3 War. They traded. Hooks. Uppercuts. Sweat flew like confetti. By round 4, both men were breathing through their mouths. Chris saw Leo's eyes change. For the first time doubt. Round 5 Final round. Chris had nothing left. But he kept going. Because that's what dishwashers turned dreamers do.
They stood, gloves down, arms draped on their coach's shoulders. Announcer grabbed the mic. Winner by split decision. Chris held his breath. Leo Reyes. The crowd cheered.
Chris exhaled disappointment like a slow ache.
But then, the arena shifted. People chanted his name.
Chris. Chris. Chris.
Even Leo came over, tapped gloves, and whispered,
You're the real deal. 2 days later, Chris walked back into Bella Vita. Dominic looked up from his clipboard. You die. Almost. Dominic smirked. Good. Dishwashers broken. Chris laughed. And grabbed the mop.
That Friday, 2 teenage boys came into the restaurant. They weren't there to eat. You're Christopher, right? From the fight, Chris blinked. Yeah. You lost. But you didn't quit. Chris smiled. Exactly. They stayed. Asked questions. One of them said, I work after school, but I want a box too. Chris reached into his bag and handed him a pair of old wraps. Start with this.
Chris never became a world champion. But he fought again, and again. And every time he brought someone with him. A dishwasher. A delivery driver. A tired mother. A scared kid. And he taught them all the same thing. That you don't need to be undefeated to be unbreakable. You just need to keep stepping in. Apron or gloves doesn't matter. Because in the end, the biggest fights, they happen outside the ring.
Not all champions wear belts. Some just wear aprons. And never stop swinging.